I'm going to be completely honest here. I have no idea how to even start this video or even begin to talk about this game. On one hand, this game is a giant mess. There's a reason why the title is what it is. This game is incredibly flawed, but I'd also be lying if I said that I didn't enjoy my time playing it. I mean, there's a reason why I've put this many hours into the game. I wouldn't be playing the game this long if I didn't find it fun. By the time this video comes out, I probably haven't beat the game if I'm being honest, because goddamn, this game has a lot of shit to it. But I have enough hours and I'm close enough to the finish that I have a full opinion on this game. And the opinions that I do have aren't going to change by the time I finish the game. So because of the title and just how the internet works, there's going to be people who are going to just jump to the conclusion that I hate this game and that I think that there's no hope for it in the future, when that really isn't the case. Yes, as of right now, this game is a giant mess, but this is definitely a mess that can be cleaned up. The devs have been constantly updating, patching, and just working on this game ever since launch, and I think that is a great thing for this game's future. If I'm being honest, I think in about a 2-year window, the perception of this game is going to be completely different than it is now. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes through a cyberpunk arc where just over time, as the devs keep patching and fixing things in the game and eventually adding new content, people are really going to come around to this game. Now, does that mean I'm saying that it's going to be some 10 out of 10 masterpiece? Hell no. But I also don't think it's nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. So because this is a long video and it took a decent amount of time to make, I hate to be that guy, but do the things the algorithm likes, that you know what that means. Like, comment, sub. You can dislike and leave a hateful comment if you want, but just do the things the algorithm likes. Thank you, and let's get on with this video. As everybody knows, I am a gameplay is king guy. I think gameplay is by far the most important aspect of any video game, and I usually start all my reviews talking about gameplay. But this video, we're going to do something different. We need to talk about the performance issues right off the bat, because this is going to make or break a lot of people's gameplay. And I'm not going to lie, yes, the performance issues have gotten better over time. From launch till where we are now, the game runs a lot better, it's a lot smoother, and there isn't as much input delay. But there is still massive performance issues that you're going to come across in your playthrough. Unless you got like a NASA type of PC where you can run anything. I don't have a NASA supercomputer, but my computer is good enough that I should not be running into this bad of FPS drops while playing on low settings. I've even been seeing problems on console, which isn't that surprising. But seeing how you have to go into system settings on a console just for the game to run properly is insane. Now, this game does have de novo, so maybe that has something to do with some of the performance issues. I mean, everyone knows that de novo just fucks with performance, but honestly, I just think the number of physics that literally everything has in this game, I mean, every blade of grass, every tree, every leaf, everything has just a million physics to it. There's a lot of shit going on in this game, which, yes, makes the game look really nice. I'm not going to sit here and lie. The graphics for this game are insane. I'm somebody who's all for aesthetics and having a genuine art direction for your game, and I don't think that focusing on graphic fidelity is nearly as important as making your game look unique. But I'm not gonna lie, the game does look really fucking nice. It looks beautiful, the world is awesome when everything's running properly. Now, when the game hits like 20 FPS randomly because it has to load in a million shaders, then yeah, it kind of ruins the immersion aspect of it. But I really think that just the amount of shit that is going on, the amount of physics and polygons that everything has been fucking with everyone's computer. This game definitely has its share of bugs and glitches, some of which just being minor little things that I'm not really gonna bitch about all that much. But then it also has some bugs that are just the most infuriating thing ever, and just you wonder how this got past playtesting. For example, and this is the one that pissed me off the most. After the war arc, where you just get done fighting 100,000 enemies, and after you finally beat the boss, you have to watch a cutscene where at the end of the cutscene, you're directed to follow this guy to a specific location, right? Well, the camera decides to lock itself in like the cinematic view, and you can't turn your camera, you can't press start, there is no way of getting out of it. You are stuck with your camera being like this, dying, doing all sorts of things, doesn't fix the camera, resetting, reloading the game, doing anything you can to fix the camera, and it won't work. So with your camera looking like this, you're gonna have to find your way to the specific location that they want you to go to in order for your camera to reset. Bugs and issues like this, because apparently this isn't just me. The only way I was able to solve this was because thankfully there is a YouTube video that shows you exactly where to go. So shout out to this guy right here. So this isn't just a me problem. I don't understand how a problem this big makes it past playtesting. But for a $70 game that's supposed to be one of, if not the biggest, most hyped game of the year, you can't have these type of problems. It's unacceptable. Again, the devs have been patching the game and have been working on it, and I'm more than confident that a lot of these issues are going to be solved and patched out. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this game doesn't have performance issues. So what the hell is Crimson Desert exactly? Well, it's made by a Korean studio that has only ever made one game, and that was an MMO. And I'm not gonna lie, it definitely shows in Crimson Desert. If you ask me, the easiest way to describe this game is that it's pretty much a single player MMO that tries to combine everything from these 3 games into one massive game, while also adding splashes of like literally everything else from an open world game that you've ever played before. Look, if you hate open world games, do not even consider playing this game. You will absolutely hate it. I can guarantee you that. This is a massive game that you're going to have to sink a lot of time into. Again, if you don't like open world games and they really aren't your thing, and you're not a big fan of at least 2 out of 3 of these games right here, you are not going to enjoy this game. I can guarantee you that. Now, the biggest concern I had with this game before it launched was that it was going to be this massive game with a million different features, but everything would be boring and surface level. And this is where things get complicated, because Crimson Desert's biggest problem is that it is an everything game. Think of any popular, semi-successful open world game that has come out in like the past 10 years, and there is a mechanic from that game in this one. And because of that, everything is pretty mid and not fully fleshed out. I mean, for Christ's sake, they didn't even make it a proper MMO. Crimson Desert quite literally has an identity crisis, but at the same time, they did a good enough job at 2 of the 3 games that they were trying to copy off of to make a sorta semi-fun gameplay loop. Sure, the combat isn't nearly as good as Elden Ring's combat, but I still think it was fun and had a decent sense of progression to it, even if it does get stale about like 45 hours in. And sure, the exploration in Tears of the Kingdom is better than Crimson Desert, but I thought it was still fun to explore this giant map and come across all the things that this world has to offer. The only part that I think they really missed on, and I mean this was a really big miss, it didn't land the way they think it wanted to, was the story and characters. They really liked Red Dead Redemption 2, and it shows in this game. And I think they just completely missed on pretty much every aspect of it. I'm going to break everything down in the later sections, but this is just the most simplest way I could say this. If you like any of these 3 games right here, my guess is you will probably enjoy this game. If not, then this is not the game for you. Look for something else because you won't like it. Don't waste your money on it. We finally get to talk about the gameplay, and we're gonna talk about the controls first, because what the fuck were they thinking? Seriously, what are these controls? Who came up with this shit? Look, A is to run, X is to jump, which that's totally fine, but X is also the button you use to interact with things, and then X is also how you mount your horse, it's also how you fly, it's also how you double jump. X does like a million different fucking things. Lock on is down on the D-pad, or L1 if you're gonna like use it to block, not the left stick. That's used for this game's equivalent of the Ultra Hand. The back button, which should be used for something useful like, I don't know, the map. Instead, that's how you change the POV. To access the map or just any part of the start menu, you have to hold the start button and then cycle through the options to get where you want to go. Otherwise, the default menu changes based on what you did last. So for instance, if you went to upgrade your character and then let's say you walked a little bit and you wanted to use the map, the next time you would press start, you would be at the character upgrade tree. Another massive problem is that there is just so many button combos in this goddamn game that some of the mechanics don't even work. For example, there's this mechanic called blinding light, where you hold your sword up and you can like shine it to create a fire or whatever. By holding L1 and R1, you are able to do this, right? There are these enemies in the game game called Shadow Harpies, where in order to kill them, you have to use blinding light. The problem is, this mechanic does not work in combat. You cannot just do blinding light by holding L1 and R1 in combat, because it won't do it. Instead, you will just hold your shield up and start attacking nothing. The only way to do this mechanic is you have to put your sword away and then attempt to do it without locking onto anything. Because if you lock onto something, the game is going to assume that you want to attack normally. Or again, just another example that just one button does too many actions. This one button has like 5 different actions, and the game doesn't know what you want to do at all times. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to see the problem with this. You do eventually get used to the controls, but honestly, what was the thought process behind this? I would love to know. Moving on to the combat itself, I am again very conflicted on it, because on one hand, it is fun, but it's also incredibly janky and just unresponsive. It doesn't feel smooth at all. No matter how long you play the game and how good you get at it, it never feels responsive. Now, once you figure out that you're actually supposed to hold down R1 or R2, this will make combat feel a lot smoother and not as jank, but I would also argue that this makes combat feel incredibly robotic. Since again, you're not even really interacting with it, you're just holding down buttons and something is happening. And once you're like 45 hours deep into the game, you get kind of tired of holding down R1 or R2 and watching these same animations 1,000 times. Don't get the wrong idea. I enjoy the combat in this game, and I think it is fun and it works for what it's trying to do. But I'd argue that the combat in this game is perfectly fine in moderation. But once you have to do continuous fighting, I think it really starts to show its flaws with the combat system. I think at certain points of this game, there are just way too many enemies, and it ruins the combat. For example, I think the War Arc and Taking Back Payloon are perfect examples of this. Conceptually, I think these are pretty cool ideas for a game. Don't get me wrong, the idea of fighting these big, massive scale wars that truly feel like you're on a war field are conceptually really cool. But then in reality, you are going to spend like an hour, hour and a half fighting these same 3 enemies. Again, don't get me wrong, becoming Madara and killing hundreds of enemies is cool, and I guess objectively speaking, it is fun. But once you realize all you're doing is holding down R1 or R2 the entire time, it starts to make the game not fun. Now, you might say, well, if you look at your upgrade tree, you can unlock a bunch of new moves. Which is true. There is a fuck ton of combos and abilities that you can use in this game, and the unique part about it is that every single ability that you unlock is available to you at all times. But I'd argue that isn't a good thing. One, there are only so many buttons on your controller, and when one single button is used for 3 different attacks, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out why that might be a problem. 2, the input reading on your end isn't nearly precise enough to match what you actually want to do. There are so many times in this game where you will want to do a specific action and the game just won't do it. Or you can just feel a delay in everything you do. Whether that's jumping, dodging, even attacking, there feels like it's just like a delay from when you hit the button to when the character actually does it. 3, what's the point of all these abilities if holding down R1/R2 is the best way to approach combat? Dominant strategy is a thing, and in this game, that would be holding down R1 and R2. So yeah, you have all these cool combos and abilities, but really, they don't even work against bosses. You can use like maybe 5 of these abilities against a boss, and even then, it doesn't even work that well. Every boss is pretty much just a Dark Souls boss. All these cool fancy abilities that you have only work against normal enemies. But when I'm 45 hours in and I've already RKO'd about 500 enemies, it's not fun to do anymore. I just want to get it over with. I think the enemy variety is definitely lacking in this game if you ask me. Yes, there are a decent number of cool enemies that you can find exploring the open world, but I'd say for a huge majority of combat, you'll be fighting the same 3 to 5 enemies. Moving on to the boss fights, and I don't even know where to say about these because I don't want to sound incredibly negative as if I just fucking hate this game. So the nicest thing I can possibly say about these boss fights fights is that they are a mixed bag. It's very obvious that they were inspired by Elden Ring, and I think some of the bosses feel pretty fair at the start of the game, but you can tell that they definitely ran out of ideas once you get to the later game, because they just start to remake the same boss about 100 times. For example, I think Stag Lord is a perfectly balanced boss that fits the combat style that this game was going for perfectly. His attacks are well telegraphed, and he doesn't feel like a character from a completely different game. He's just enough of a challenge that you have to pay attention and focus on the fight during his 3 different phases, but he doesn't feel overtuned for the purpose of just being difficult. I'll even be nice and say that Goy was a decently designed boss, simply just because he is a reflection of the character. Like, he can do everything Cliff can do. But then you have bosses like Ludwig or the dude that you have to fight at the end of chapter 8, where they just feel like they are from a completely different game. Ludwig has electric powers and somehow gets a magical form change where he becomes like buff Nordic Electro. And then the dude you beat as like the girl at the end of chapter 8 also gets a magic change where he gets like some spirit demon that he gets to teleport around and gets to create clones of himself. Some of these bosses feel as if you just modded the ever-living fuck out of like a Skyrim character and put them into this game. Also, the camera and lock-on system just fucking suck. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I don't think they work for the style of boss fights that they were trying to go for. The amount of times that you're just gonna get fucked from the camera is insane. As I said earlier in the video, they even failed at making this an MMO, which is crazy since the only game they've ever made is an MMO. If you take a game like RuneScape, for example, right? If you mine rocks, cut down trees, smith weapons, blah blah blah, all these chores that you have to do in these games, the entire appeal of it is that you're going to get better, you are going to improve, you are going to see the numbers go up. At the start of the game, when you mine something, you're not going to be very good at it. But the more you mine, the better you get at it, which means that you can mine more things, you can mine better things, which then you can make into better equipment. In Crimson Desert, all the MMO mechanics just exist to exist. When you mine ore in Crimson Desert, that is it. You just mine it, you just hit the fucking rock, and you get the ore. And then you take it to the smith, and you upgrade your equipment. That is it. You don't get better at it. The mechanic just exists because people like MMOs, so we have to put it in our game. Now, there's going to be somebody who's like, well, earlier you said you enjoyed the combat, and that it was kind of fun, yet for the past 10 minutes, all I've heard you do is bitch and complain. Which is fair. And I do enjoy the combat. Even through all of its jank and random mechanics, there is a fun gameplay loop in the combat. If there's one thing that Crimson Desert does get right, it is the power fantasy aspect of these type of games. You feel incredibly strong. Yes, there might be some problems with having to fight 100,000 enemies because it gets repetitive, but I'm not gonna lie, you do feel powerful. It is fun. Just the idea that you can walk in and you can just destroy 50 plus enemies in your way with little to no problem is fun. The animations, while there's only a certain amount of them, and they do get kind of old seeing the same one 100,000 times, they do have this sense of weight and power to it. When I RKO somebody and like the whole ground shakes, you feel that shit. When I choke slam somebody and stab them in the neck, you feel that shit. I think overall they focused way too much on style and quantity over substance when it came to the combat. They needed to make the core gameplay loop of the combat feel more responsive, a lot smoother, and ultimately just have a reason to exist, not just add a million mechanics for the sake of adding a million mechanics. Since this is a game that likes to take aspects from literally every game ever made, I think they needed to take the idea that Dragon's Dogma has, where you can obtain a bunch of abilities, but you can only choose a specific amount. The same thing goes for weapons. They should have added a class system. I think that would have helped this game tremendously. What's the point of having all these classes and weapons and abilities if ultimately they all feel the exact same to use? Instead, if they would have gone the Dragon's Dogma approach, you could have made an archer with a whole bunch of abilities that this game does have for archery and really perfected a playstyle with it. If you wanted to do the longsword, right, since that's one of the most OP weapons in the game, you could have made a genuine playstyle with that. Same thing with the sword and shield, or with the lance, or the spear. Just giving the player a million options that are always available to them wasn't the move. Moving on to the open world, and this is probably the most disappointing aspect of this entire game to me, because this really could have been a great open world. All the potential is there for this game to have been like a really cool and fun open world game, almost to like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. They could have made something really good here, and it just confuses me on why they didn't. They spent hella money making this giant open world that admittedly looks really good. I'm not gonna lie. Again, the graphics and just how the world looks is incredible. But when you actually explore the open world, which is something that this game wants you to do, the game encourages you to create your own path, create your own story, do your own thing. But it feels like they half-assed all this shit in the open world itself. Everyone is gonna talk about how there's a million different things and there's a lot of side quests in this open world, which that is true, but I would argue that a lot of these are slop. The same exact shit that people bitch about Ubisoft games for doing, this game does the exact same thing. You like outposts? Do you like fetch quests? Do you like Radiant side quests? Now, there are legit side quests that are decent. I'll be nice and I'll say they're decent for what they are. But ultimately, the shit that you're gonna find in like the side quests are pretty much the same things that people bitch about with Ubisoft and Bethesda games. They really aren't that good. Look, if you want to spend hundreds of hours doing a bunch of slop side quests, then all the power to you. Don't let me stop you. But I'm not fucking doing that. I guess it's time that we speak about the puzzles, and I'm kind of conflicted on this, because on one aspect, I did kind of enjoy them, I'm not gonna lie. Even though, yes, whoever made these puzzles, no, there's no human being who made these fucking puzzles. These puzzles were made by, like, ChatGPT. They make no sense for, like, 90% of them. Literal aliens made these puzzles, but I still found them fun for the same reason why you would find them fun in, like, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You have this giant open world, and finding these puzzles to do where you do get rewarded with upgrade abilities, or just upgrade, like, artifacts, is a satisfying gameplay loop. I enjoyed them. Even though, again, they were made by bots, I still thought they were fun. But they needed more of them. For how big of an open world this game is, I mean, this game has a fat-ass open world. There doesn't seem to be nearly enough puzzles. But I feel like that's also in part because they don't have enough mechanics to actually work with the puzzles. This just proves more of my point, that a lot of these things were just put into the game because people liked Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The same thing goes for the Sky Islands, and I think that's even a bigger problem than just the puzzles themselves. Sure, the puzzles on the ground are decent, but the Sky Islands feel like they are just put there because people liked Tears of the Kingdom. Literally, I don't even think they thought about this one bit. I mean, I was 60 plus hours into the game before I even stepped foot onto doing any of these Sky Islands. And the problem is, they have like these puzzles. You know, like in Tears of the Kingdom, when you'd go up to the Sky Islands, you had the puzzles of getting up to like the divine beast in the sky, right? There's all the puzzles that get up there. They attempted to do the same thing with these Sky Islands in this game. But you can just tell that they didn't actually think about it, because you can literally just double jump 3 force palms so you can like get your max amount of verticality and just fly over the entire fucking puzzle. They didn't think about this at all. They don't even feel like they have any purpose outside of just being there. From what I get from the story, apparently the Sky Islands are supposed to be like part of like this world's multiverse to keep this world's timeline in check or something. I think that's what they're going for. But legitimately, they feel like they have no purpose. You are going to forget all about them. At the beginning of the game, you have to go to one of the Sky Islands. I mean, in like the first hour, maybe 2 hours, you're going to be at one of the Sky Islands. And you're not going to touch them for the next 40 plus hours. You're going to forget that they exist entirely. And then when you do get there, you're going to tell how half-assed they are. See, the part to me that doesn't make any sort of sense about this open world is how empty it is. For a game that has the design philosophy of just taking things from every fucking game ever made and putting it into their game, most notably games like Dragon's Dogma or Elden Ring, if you're going to take aspects from every game, why wouldn't you take the cool aspects from them and put them in in your game? For instance, this game really likes Dragon's Dogma and Elden Ring, as I just said. Where are all the cool things that you can find in the open world there? They attempted to do it with the boss fights, I'll give them that, on like the Elden Ring side. But where is all the cool monsters from Dragon's Dogma? Everyone likes Dragon's Dogma because the whole point of the game is that you just gotta run, fight these giant fucking monsters, climb on them, and stab them in the fucking face, right? Where are these cool monsters? Where are the chimeras? Where are the hydras? Where are the lionels? Where are all these cool fantasy monsters that could be in this game? I mean, this is a fantasy game. Where are they? Why aren't they here? If I'm exploring this fat ass open world, maybe I want to fight a dragon. I mean, there is a dragon in the game. You don't get it till over 70 plus hours in, but why can't I fight a dragon? Why can't I fight a Medusa? Where are these cool things? Again, if you're going to take aspects from all these games, why aren't you taking the cool aspects from them? Look, if you're somebody who likes Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Skyrim, or just Bethesda games, and maybe even Ubisoft games, I feel like you will enjoy the open world to a certain extent because it's just a giant mix of all of those games. And because of that, they did a decent enough job at creating that gameplay loop and that like enjoyment from those games that like you would get from exploring the world. And I'm somebody who really likes open world games like that. I enjoy being able to just go out in the open world, explore, find things, create my own story, that type of thing. And you are able to do that in this game. My problem is that they didn't go enough into any aspect of it. They just threw in a bunch of things from a bunch of games and just put it into their world. Really, I wanted them to think and really like design this open world to feel more alive than what it actually feels like. Again, there is a lot of potential with this game and the open world, but I feel like they ultimately just half-assed the entire thing. Outside of just the length or like how big the open world is and the visual graphics of it. Like, yes, it looks pretty, it's really big, and if you're somebody who really likes getting those like screenshots of like the horizon and like the draw distance, you can get that in this game. But the stuff in the open world itself, I'd argue, is lacking. This is going to be probably the shortest segment because there isn't really that much to talk about. As I said earlier, they fucking flopped when it came to this game's story. And I mean that wholeheartedly because this story makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Characters just come and go. You're going to meet some random character who you've never heard about once in the entire story. They're going to be there for about maybe 10 seconds, one cutscene at max, and then you're never going to see them again. There is no proper build-up whatsoever for literally anything outside of maybe like the first 3 chapters. It truly feels like you're just doing things because they needed to put a story into the game. It feels as if I am constantly missing aspects of the story that I should know. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Why am I fighting a war for this faction? Who are these people? Like, what is going on? It's very obvious that they were inspired by Red Dead 2 when it comes to the story and the characters. I mean, you have this whole camp full of Greymanes who all share very similar traits to the Vanderland gang, but I don't have a reason to give a fuck about any single one of them. Most of the characters just feel like they exist just to be part of the camp, and then the characters that actually have like a personality and that you might actually like be able to build a relationship with either A, don't have any screen time outside of like their 1 to 2 missions that you have with them, or what I think the bigger problem is that Cliff is probably the most boring protagonist I've ever seen in my fucking life.
To me by a mysterious woman clad all in white. Asked me to give it to you when the time was right. And this, I wanted to give you myself.
Is this?
Jian's journal. Found it in the fortress. I thought you should have it.
Thanks.
It's been a harsh journey, yet you've made it.
You.
A sword unrefined, yet honing its edge. Let's see how your trials have tempered your blade.
I won't hold back. Understand?
You assume the stance of a student. Engage me.
Skullmuck! Come on! No, you handle things here.
to help me, quickly!
Calm yourself. I'm a friend. I'm here to help. The Baron sent me.
Thank you for freeing me.
Seems you weren't able to find the spear manual. You don't look too good. Why don't you catch your breath and go on ahead? Don't worry. I'll look for the manual.
Look, I'm perfectly fine with the idea of having a low-key story and a non-verbal main character, but goddamn, what were they thinking? It feels like Cliff is supposed to be a combination of both Arthur Morgan and Link, and I just can't find out why they would do this. On one hand, Cliff is supposed to be the big dog of the Greymanes. Everyone looks up to him. Everyone follows his orders. They come to him with all their problems. He's the one solving everything. But then he pretty much just has Link's form of dialogue where he just accepts to do everything. And in the moments where there could be real character development, or just, again, building relationships with everyone in the camp, you get the most monotone, basic-ass conversation out of Cliff. Like, seriously, what was the point of taking this approach to the story/character building if you're not going to give the main character a personality? Link, a character that literally says only yes or no in like weird little sounds, somehow has more character than Cliff. In conclusion, this is such a hard game to talk about, because on one hand, I think this game has a lot of potential, and it is fun. I have put over 70 hours into this game, and I probably will end up finishing it. I'm almost at the end. If I really hated the game that much, I wouldn't be this far in, and it wouldn't have taken me this long to make this goddamn video. The combat is fun, the exploration is fun, the puzzles are decent, but my biggest problem, the hardest sell that I have for this game, is that nothing really feels fully fleshed out. This is a game that takes mechanics from literally every game made and just throws it into their game because people liked it from the other games. I think they really should have refined each mechanic into this game instead of just throwing in a million different mechanics, and I think the game would have been a lot better because of it. I feel as if this game has just a fuck ton of potential. This game really could be something great if the devs keep updating and working on it and adding things over time. In a few years, this game could look completely different than it does now. But there is also just some things that no amount of patchwork are going to fix. So if you've made it this far, let me know what you guys think of the game. I know the internet has really soured on it as time has gone on, but I'm really interested to see what you guys think about it. Really, I would have wished that they would have removed a lot of the fluff and really developed the core gameplay mechanics of the three things that they were trying to do: the combat, the exploration, and the story. They really should have focused on that instead of just trying to add in a million things just for the sake of adding it. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, tell me why in the comments and we can talk about it. But thank you for watching the video if you've made it this far, and I'll see y'all later.